For more on Disney's earnings, let's bring in CNBC contributor Jim Stewart. He's a New York Times columnist. He also wrote the book Disney War. Jim, great to have you with us. What do you make of this quarter?
Well, it's not good news. I don't know. I mean, the big headline obviously is the huge losses at the direct-to-consumer unit. I mean, they're talking about a profit maybe in 2024. By the way, I noticed a caveat in the earnings release saying, assuming there's no meaningful deterioration in the economic situation, which there very well might be. And when they say a profit, they don't say how much of a profit. I mean, we're never going to see the incredible profit margins they had in the glory days of cable when ESPN was just hauling in the profits for them. So that ballooning loss at DTC is, I think, going to be a huge worry to investors. I mean, where does this end?
Where do you think it ends? Or do you think that Bob Chapek slugs along and he really believes that these are peak losses here? I mean, in the after-hour session, Jim, Disney has lost $20 billion already. It's down 10% right now. It's an astonishing decline.
Well, we're hearing more in the conference call about some of the deterioration in the linear networks, particularly ESPN. You know, the cord cutting, the loss of ad revenue there. That is a problem they're continuing to face while they try to do this big pivot. The big question has always been, you know, where is the pot of gold, and when is there a pot of gold in the streaming universe? And investors are quickly souring on this whole scenario. I think
I've been soured on Disney, and I've been predicted that this was going to happen because once you go too woke, you go broke. And Disney had largely been a powerhouse and basically printed money. They had Marvel, they had theme parks, which prices is absolutely out of control, but the theme parks are the theme parks, right? And the theme parks suffered during the pandemic, and then they came roaring back, whatever. But then you got ESPN, in my opinion, which is a losing unit. They're overpaying for a lot of the licenses and the ability to be able to broadcast certain football and basketball or whatever like that, but they can't lose it. And so these leagues have them over a barrel. And this, as you can see, is already a previous stream in which Disney reported earnings. And then I had already sold my shares in Disney. Because I already seen the writing on the wall as far as, you know, them pushing agendas and narratives and things like that. And that largely can affect what your bag is. It affects your bag significantly. And so from an investor's perspective, it didn't make sense. Also, from a business perspective, it didn't make sense. And now they fired their CEO, and they're bringing back the previous CEO, and they have to be paying him an egregious amount of money to right the ship, which he rightly deserves it. And his ability to be able to navigate through this problem, Rob Iger, and then they fire Bob to make sure that they can get the stock price back up. Now, one thing that's happening pre-market trading is that the stock is absolutely exploding as usual because they got rid of the old regime, or they got rid of the guy that's been rocking out for the last 2 years and they brought back in a new guy. But you know, largely what's being said right now is that the board has concluded that Disney embarks on an increasingly complex period of industry transformation, right? And they saying that the old CEO is basically the person that needs to pilot them through this. Now, he wanted to, you know, take his golden parachute and leave and relax or whatever. And Bob was the outgoing CEO, has spent his large career or a long career navigating through Disney. Now, don't feel bad for Bob because Bob is going to make a whole lot of money. But basically what we're seeing is that Bob was not built to be the CEO, and they're losing and bleeding money, and investors had been souring on it. Now the stock price is shooting back up. But it's going to take some time to right the ship.
The idea has always been that sooner or later we're going to get down to 3 or maybe 4 very large survivors here, and that they will begin to make money by ratcheting up the subscription fees. But Disney is not showing any progress there. I mean, the cost of keeping these subscribers, of coming up with blockbuster hits, of paying billions of dollars in programming costs to keep the fresh material coming that's going to attract people and keep them from turning this stuff off is enormous. And we're not seeing any growth in their subscriber fees. I mean,
and it's funny because Apple has a foundation that allows for them to basically lose money while continuing to bring up or fund and invest in the library. Same thing with Netflix. Netflix is the leader, so when the leader is always going to be at the front of the pack, and Netflix stock is absolutely Man, I couldn't have made a better investment. I think that Netflix might be my top investment when it comes to stocks right now as a part of my portfolio. Netflix is just absolutely killing it, but Netflix already understood that they're more of a growth company and they're not necessarily looking to return profits back to investors immediately outside of their stock price, which allows for them to be more focused on content because they're a content creation company. Disney is trying to be Disney is trying to be a all-in-one entertainment company, and they're fumbling. Not only because of their inability to focus on a thing that makes them profitable and then leverage that in order to fund the other businesses, but they have bad leadership and they have agendas that's largely overtaking what I believe their investment strategy should be going forward as far as returning value back to shareholders. And so when you start to put those two things into question, you knew that the CEO had to go. It had to go. And I believe that the stock is up more than 9% pre-market trading, which is pretty effing incredible. I don't care what the stock is because all money ain't good money for me. And so until I've seen a change in behavior, I am largely divesting from Disney because I don't believe that it aligns with my morals and values. But congratulations to everybody that followed what it is that I did and got out of the stock prior to Disney reporting these horrible results. And then if you were able to buy it back at a discount because you've seen what happened when he got fired or after their reported earnings, congratulations if you decided to reinvest in it and you're making a lot of money as a result of it. I do think that Iger is the person for the job.
The U.S. domestic average, revenue for Disney went down. Yes, they did have an impressive growth in subscribers, but the bigger they get, the more they're losing.
Disney Plus is losing money. Netflix is making money. Disney Plus is losing money. Think about that for a minute. Disney Plus is losing money. Let me pivot for a minute. I'm going to go over to what Jim Cramer said about Disney and see what it is that his perspective was prior to him getting fired last night.
Jim, we got a lot to talk about. I want to talk Disney. I want to talk crypto. I want to talk Meta. And I want to talk the elections. Go.
All right. Disney, if they have ESPN, if we were on ESPN, we would say he's got to be fired. That's pretty cut and dry.
You're firing Bob Chapek? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Jim Cramer is he just.
I felt that he had a couple of years. The team's going downhill. I mean, that was incredible. Last night was really, the team has been going downhill. I had faith. I had faith in Frank Reich in the Colts, and I still do with Frank because he had a winning record. But there is just no doubt that he has to go. I mean, that was just unconscionable. And the quarter itself, the way he handled it, I mean, he made it sound like it was just a 4-star quarter.
Let me share with you guys what's on my screen because I was breaking down and I was looking at a Wall Street Journal article that highlighted the fact that they needed to fire him. And, they were breaking down his tenure at Disney. So let me share this with you guys really quickly. Let me move myself over a little bit. So saying that the board has concluded that Disney embarks on an increasingly complex period of industry transformation. Basically, Bob is out. We thank Bob for his service to Disney over his long career, including navigating the company through unprecedented challenges in the pandemic. And it's funny because everybody thought that it was just about subscriber growth, but they were losing more money as they continue to gain subscribers, and they can't sustain it and keep people there because they can't refresh their content to the extent that Netflix is. This month, the company reported weaker than expected fourth quarter financial results, killing the momentum built up over a strong year that saw record revenue and profits in multiple divisions. This is a what have you done for me lately business, especially the one that includes theme parks. Disney theme park business has recovered strongly since the pandemic shut down its venues across the world, but the division continues to subsidize widening losses in the streaming video businesses. So what's basically happening is that they're making record profits in the theme parks, which now we have to take that information and then extrapolate it into every other thing that we're invested in, including our own experiences. And that's why even me, I've pivoted we'll talk about that with the bag chasers. Make sure you subscribe to the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. I actually got a Patreon exclusive video releasing today that breaks down this whole thing. Not this thing, but content creation in a general sense. It says, Bob has said repeatedly that he expects the streaming business to be profitable by September 2024, which basically what this is saying is that his inability to be able to turn a profit and largely lean on other aspects of the business in order to try to subsidize this business is a lose-lose situation, because it's almost like you can't not be rocking out with Disney Plus. You can't not have it because Netflix is already kicking your ass and they eating your lunch, but you can't not have it. If I'm Disney, honestly, I would put less resources into Disney Plus, even though that's the future of the business. I would focus a little less on that and focus a little bit more on licensing content, because Disney's strong suit is building a content library, which they can then license that out. But instead, they decided to bring all of that back in, lose all of that licensing money in order to try to build up the Disney Plus platform, but they're continuing to lose money. So it's a very interesting situation. It says that Disney has also faced pressure from multiple activist hedge fund investors this year. Blah, 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 blah. That's normal. Listen, again, make sure you guys subscribe to the Patreon for that Patreon exclusive video that I'm dropping today. I think that you're going to like it a lot. But more importantly, make sure you subscribe, hit a like for the YouTube algorithm. We're going to continue to get down to the money, because everything comes back to the money. What do you think about Disney firing its CEO and coming back to their old CEO to try to prop up the business? And do you see Disney as an investment? Do you see Disney as an investment today? I will not be investing in Disney. I think that my money is better allocated in other companies and other places that I really, really love. If you want to see what my breakdown is and the things that I look for most when I'm looking to invest in a company, make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. And again, I want you guys to make the right strategic investments and not just find yourself in a position where you're gambling, but you're making informed decisions. Let me know in the comments what you think about Disney firing its CEO and bringing back Rob Iger, and then how it fits into this narrative of what's going on in society. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you guys later. Peace.